Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
It is Tuesday, and all of our guests today, including Craig Button, standing by, TSN Scouting Director, brought to you by the Waddling Dog. And Craig joins us now, TSN Scouting Director. Craig, thanks for doing this on this Tuesday. How are you?
I am really good. I'm in Vancouver doing the Canadians Canucks game tonight for TSN.
And we can see that it may be raining in Vancouver, just looking at the background behind you. We're in a dungeon here, so we don't know what the weather's like, but that's a shocker that it's raining in Vancouver. Hey, Craig,
it's a good bet, Donnie. If you said it's raining in Vancouver, it's a good bet. Make it.
Oh, yeah. Don't worry, I will. Hey, we talked about Drew O'Connor in our previous segment. The Canucks have him listed on the first line tonight. What do you think about his development and the move from Pittsburgh to Vancouver for him?
Well, Drew has a lot of speed, and I think number one for the Canucks, trying to get some more speed into their forward group is really important. You know, you're trying to force opponents into turnovers. Offense doesn't come easy for the Vancouver Canucks. So getting that type of an element where you can create offense in a different way with turnovers, forcing your opponent into doing things a little bit quicker and being ready to take advantage of those types of things. Do I think Drew O'Connor's a true number one winger? No, I don't. But I think it reflects what the Vancouver Canucks need, number one, speed in their forward group, and trying to find some players that can add a different element to help them with their offense, because the offense simply is not very good. They struggle to generate offense. So it's not that you just throw up your arms and you go, okay, we can't do anything. You now look at, okay, how can we try to create offense in a different way? And I think that Drew, with his speed, and he's got size, and he can carve out that space and hold that space, becomes a really good option for a team that is looking for different ways to score.
Okay, so also from our previous segment, we had an argument, Drew O'Connor versus Nils Hoglander. Hoglander in the bottom six for we're reaching deep into the Donnie and Dolly storybook here, Craig. But Nils Hoglander signed a 3-year deal in the offseason. It kicks in next year. What about what's going on with his career these days, Craig?
Yeah, and I think it's a really good, fair question, Donnie. Nils has been this player to me, and I've watched Nils play since he was 15 years of age. He's an excellent skater. We've seen some what I would call some of those flashy offensive plays with the Michigans, and we've seen his ability to score. Last year is a good example. I've always felt that Nils is ideally a third line player that can be a catalyst, create some turnovers. Can he punch up your lineup? Yeah, he can, and give you some different elements, some of the elements that Drew O'Connor I just talked about. So what's the difference between Drew O'Connor and Nils Hoglander? Well, Drew O'Connor's fresh. Drew O'Connor doesn't have the same history with the Vancouver Canucks that Nils Hoglander has. One of the things, and he went down to the minors a couple of years ago. He came back, refreshed, rejuvenated. I really believe that when Nils gets away from what makes him effective is when he runs into problems. And by that, let me explain it. When he tries to put skill ahead of being a really good, quick, fast catalyst type player, he doesn't become anything. When he puts the catalyst, good skating, put pressure on, be difficult to play against, other things ensue for him. The offense comes a little bit more, and I think it extends over to the rest of the team. And I think this is one of the challenges that every coach has with a player. You see the things that are really good when he's playing really well, and then they're not there. Consistency is the word that comes to mind with Nils. When Nils is consistent in his areas of strength and knows what gives him success, I think he can be an effective player. When he doesn't, he ends up creating what I would call is frustration with the coaches, because they know that he can. It's about, can you do it all the time?
Hey, Craig, the trade deadline, the Canucks did not do anything. Brock Besser was not moved, so he's the UFA that could walk for nothing, possibly, Craig. But what did you think of the Canucks trade deadline?
Yeah, one of the things, and I'll talk about the selling part of it, Rick, and I think it's important to try to, give an outline on this. Brock Besser is an offensive player, a goal scorer. And other teams, they're like sharks in the water. They're looking for easy food, chum, I will call it. So when you're the Vancouver Canucks, you're Patrick Allvin, you're looking and saying, okay, what's the value that we think this player is? And you see other players in the marketplace go for a certain return. And if you're not getting that return, or nobody's prepared to pay that return, what you run the risk of if you just take something is that the next time you're in this situation, teams will just wait you out. So you have to establish a price. And I'll use housing. If your house is worth $100,000 on the market, and somebody offers you 90, you go, okay, can we live with 90? But when somebody offers you 50, you can't take it. You have to just say no, even though you go, well, okay, we're going to have to at some point sell, or we're going to lose it. But you have to establish your value and know what it is. And I think that's what happened with the Vancouver Canucks. Personally, I think the question should be asked, why weren't more teams interested in paying a price for Brock Besser?
Right.
He can score. You're not asking him to be a frontline scorer. You're asking him to come in and be a player that can, be on the power play, play with other players. I look at the LA Kings. I don't know why the LA Kings wouldn't be interested in Brock Besser and paying a what I would call a commensurate price for Brock Besser. They're just one team that comes to mind. So I understand where Patrick Allvin is coming from in that respect. Carson Soucy goes to the Rangers. Right now, the Vancouver Canucks are nowhere near being a contender. Not mine. I mean, that's my observation. I think that's everybody's understanding. Jim Rutherford said it. The work that the Vancouver Canucks have to do is not about this trade deadline. It's now about how do they make sure they don't find themselves in a similar spot next year. Because this year, after a fantastic 23-24 season, has been, I'm not going to call it a disaster because that wouldn't be fair, but it certainly has been disappointing. And I think that everything that's unfolded for the Vancouver Canucks, it is now the focus has to be to make sure, what do we have to do to improve our team? Listen, you have no Quinn Hughes. That's a massive absence. Thatcher, I know Lankinen's played great, but having Thatcher Demko, with his injuries, that's certain. Losing Hronek this year, the Pettersson Miller situation, it just seems that everything is conspired against the Vancouver Canucks. And I'm not suggesting that it would be significantly different, but certain things that are really important for the success of a team have not been in place for the Vancouver Canucks this season.
All right. Now that you know the risk that Carolina took on Mikko Rantanen giving up Netchis, he doesn't sign. What'd you think about that? I mean, that was one hell of a grand slam at the time. But now people are saying, why did you acquire a guy not knowing that he would sign there? Like, when you analyze that whole thing and him ending up in Dallas, what did you think of that?
Rick, I think you just outlined it very well. You know what it's like? You know what I called it? I called it a 510-foot home run in batting practice.
Right.
It didn't matter. And you great. You hit it in the upper deck. What happened? You make the trade with the idea that you're going to get a different type of player to play in that spot that can help you go deeper in the playoffs. And also, I'll be straightforward. There's an arrogance to think that we're just going to offer him so much money and he's just going to sign with us. There's no way you can for certain know. I mean, there's tampering rules in the NHL and you got to be cognizant of it, but you got to have some inkling. You have to have some inkling, and whatever the degree of inkling is, you got to have some inkling. You hear Rod Brindamore come out yesterday and ranted and told him, he goes, "There's 4 teams I'll play for, and you're not one of them." I mean, that's a massive miss by the Carolina Hurricanes, and and then they're scrambling. It's scattered. And they're scrambling now. They're flailing. They're flailing at balls down and away in the dirt with 2 runners in scoring position. And they hit the 510-foot home run in batting practice. They're going to strike out here. They struck out, Rick. That's as simple as that.
Yep.
I know Logan Stankoven's a good, decent young player. The 2 first-round draft picks. If they came out and said our plan is to be really good in 2031 and 2032, okay, you said, okay, we took a swing, it didn't work. Bottom line is, I call it just a really, really scattered disaster.
Yep.
You lose faith. If you're a manager, there's no way players in that dressing room have faith in what you're doing. No way.
Yep.
Hey, Craig, you're in Vancouver right now. Could you tell people where this place is where you can buy a home for $100,000 that you were just talking about? Because people would really like to know.
Can't even get a shack. Can't get a shack for that in Vancouver.
Yeah, you're right. I guess I was just trying to use an example, and probably a poor one considering the market here in Vancouver.
Yeah. Multiply that by about, I don't know, 10, 20.
40.
Yeah, you might be light.
Yeah, that's true. Craig, thanks for this. We'll forgive you. Next week.
Thank you very much, guys. Have a great day.